Why are people stopping eating at Subway, and why you should too? It's no longer just about taste, and not only about price. A wave of customers is quietly turning away from Subway after a string of shocking scandals. From chicken found to contain only 50% actual meat, to bread that legally doesn't qualify as bread under Irish law, and dozens of lawsuits surrounding tuna that allegedly contains no real fish. Think it's just a rumor? Even U.S. courts and independent labs have released findings that left many stunned. The brand, once hailed as the symbol of healthy fast food, is now drowning in skepticism from the very people who used to support it the most. So, why are some still eating at Subway? And are you unknowingly paying for a menu shaped more by marketing than truth? Don't place another order just yet, because what you're about to discover may make you never walk into another Subway again. 1. The chemically engineered bread. While many still believe Subway's bread is a healthy, fast food choice, legal and scientific communities have been sounding the alarm about what's really hiding inside that loaf. In 2020, the Supreme Court of Ireland stunned the public with a ruling. Subway's bread does not legally qualify as bread because it contains 5 times the allowed sugar limit. According to court documents, a standard 12-inch loaf packs nearly 50 grams of sugar comparable to many desserts. But it doesn't stop at sugar. Subway's bread was also found to contain azotic carbonamide, a chemical softener more commonly used in yoga mats and industrial foam products. After public backlash, Subway quietly removed the additive but never explained why it was there in the first place. And that warm, freshly baked smell that seems to drift hundreds of feet from every Subway store? It's not what you think. Multiple food industry sources have confirmed. It's artificial scent pumped through ventilation systems to mimic the smell of fresh bread. No real baking. Just a marketing illusion. Even the 9-grain healthy bread, often marketed as the guilt-free choice, didn't hold up under scrutiny. Lab tests revealed it contains more sugar than some candy bars, making this so-called nutritious option more like dessert than a meal. And that leads to one disturbing question. If the bread itself, the most basic part of the sandwich, is overloaded with sugar and industrial chemicals, what does that say about what's between the slices? 2. Subway's fake meat. How long have we been lied to? In 2021, an independent lab test sent shockwaves through the public. It found 0 traces of tuna DNA in Subway's so-called tuna sandwich. Not a little. None. When questioned, Subway claimed DNA can break down when cooked. Technically true, but the bigger question still looms: if there's no tuna, then what exactly is in your sandwich? And this isn't an isolated case. Another test on Subway's chicken patties revealed they contain only about 50% chicken DNA. The rest: soy protein, fillers, preservatives, and industrial additives. Subway calls it enhanced chicken. But when half the meat is no longer meat, is it still honest to call it chicken? And do customers not deserve to know what they're really eating? Longtime customers, especially seniors who've eaten Subway for years, began noticing something odd. Every meat tastes the same. Chicken, ham, roast beef identical in texture, flavor, and an unsettling artificial aftertaste. Why? Because none of it is made fresh. It's all pre-processed, pre-seasoned, vacuum-sealed, and shipped nationwide. No chef, no kitchen, just a factory line, dressed up as a sandwich shop. Worse, even the shape of the meat tells a story. Those perfectly round, elastic slices? Not cut from whole cuts. They're restructured scraps, molded with binding agents and chemical stabilizers under high pressure. The industry calls it restructured meat product. But for vulnerable customers, especially the elderly or immunocompromised, it's a hidden health risk. Picture this. The cold-cut combo you ordered yesterday might contain meat from 7 different processing plants, blended together into one new slice, and not a single staff member will tell you. Unless, of course, they're family. This is about more than just meat quality. It's about betrayed trust. Because Subway isn't just selling fast food, they're selling the idea of a healthy, safe, better choice. And millions of people, especially seniors, believed that idea. They walked into Subway thinking they were choosing wisely. What they didn't know was that every bite of meat was laced with additives, preservatives, and engineered protein. Subway calls it standardization. But if you once believed Subway was trustworthy, now is the time to take a second look. Because what's inside that familiar-looking sandwich might be nothing like what you think it is. 3. Subway's sandwiches are shorter than you think. If you ever believed Subway's foot-long sandwich was exactly 12 inches long, just like the ad said, you may have been misled for years. The scandal started with one man in Australia who brought a measuring tape to lunch and discovered his foot-long was only 11 inches. What seemed like a small discovery sparked a global reckoning. Customers across the US, UK, Canada, and Asia began measuring their sandwiches and posting photos of short subs online. An independent survey conducted during the resulting lawsuit revealed a shocking pattern. 80% of Subway's footlongs were under 12 inches, some even shy of 11. And here's the twist Subway knew, but they never warned customers. Their official response? Footlong is a brand name, not a promise. In other words, they were selling you a size and telling you not to take it literally. If that explanation sounds acceptable, what's next? Fresh vegetables from last week? Swiss cheese made in New Jersey? Let's be honest, that's like selling you a sandwich and saying, it'll probably fill you up. Sort of. But this wasn't just about one missing inch. The courts forced Subway to overhaul its quality control nationwide. They paid over $520,000 in legal costs, revised their menu, retrained employees, and had to publicly admit, sandwich lengths are only approximate. Subway claimed the bread could shrink in the oven. Fair enough, but what's not fair is this. They've known for years and kept advertising a number that simply wasn't real. And for many longtime customers, especially older ones, this wasn't about bread. It was about trust, slowly trimmed away. So here's the real question. If they can't even be honest about the length of a sandwich, what else haven't they told you? 4. The hidden health risk you never saw coming. Most people think Subway is just another sandwich chain. But what's happening behind the counter tells a different story, one that's no longer about food, but about trust, and the price we pay for convenience that's anything but harmless. Subway doesn't directly operate most of its stores. Instead, it sells franchise licenses to individuals, often costing anywhere from $15,000 to $300,000. It sounds like a shot at the American dream. In reality, it's a cleverly crafted trap. Once the money is paid, store owners are legally bound by hundreds of pages of contracts, one of which forces them to buy ingredients exclusively from Subway-approved suppliers. These ingredients often cost 30% to 50% more than the market average. One owner revealed they had to pay nearly double the price for tomatoes, ordinary tomatoes, nothing fresher, nothing special. To stay afloat, many franchisees are forced to cut costs wherever they can. That means minimum wages, shortened training, and equipment that only gets repaired when inspectors show up. On average, a Subway store nets just $31,000 a year in profit, barely enough to cover college tuition, let alone support a family. Inside the stores, employees become a one-person assembly line making sandwiches, working the register, cleaning tables, all for minimum wage. Some get trained with a few minutes of video. Others learn by shadowing coworkers who themselves started only days earlier. And when it comes to food safety, this lack of training turns from bad service into real health risks. One employee recalled their food safety training boiled down to a single line. If it looks okay, it's fine. Another said they learned to portion sauces just by eyeballing their coworkers, no charts, no measurements, just guesses. This would already be worrying if it ended there. But it doesn't. In 2023 alone, over 2,000 Subway locations across the U.S. were cited for serious food safety violations. The most common? Improper temperature storage, especially for meat, cheese, and mayo. One Florida store kept tuna salad at 72 degrees, the perfect breeding ground for bacteria to double by the hour. Cross-contamination was rampant. In some stores, employees used the same gloves to handle cash and sandwiches. Some used the same knives and cutting boards for raw meat and vegetables. A shop in Ohio was cited for slicing raw chicken and lettuce on the same board, a potential case of foodborne illness waiting to happen. Vegetable handling was no better. Some stores barely rinsed produce under cold water, some didn't wash at all. Inspectors found lettuce with visible soil and tomatoes stored in buckets previously used for cleaning chemicals. Mold, ants, roaches, even rodents made appearances in dozens of inspection reports last year. One Texas location was forced to shut down after a customer spotted roaches crawling across the sandwich counter. At another, ants nested inside a bin of sugar. Meat slicers were left uncleaned for so long, you could build a new sandwich from the residue alone. So, what happens when ingredient quality degrades and food handling becomes careless? The risk lands squarely on the customer, especially older adults with weakened immune systems, who often trust Subway for its reputation as a healthy, fast food option. But the scariest part? Most customers never know. They keep walking in, thinking they're getting something fresh and safe, unaware that behind the counter lies a system driven by cost-cutting, downsizing, and corner-cutting that turns food safety into a luxury, not a standard. For years, older Americans chose Subway for a quick meal they believed was better. But many items aren't cheaper because they're efficient. They're cheaper because they're mass-produced, molded and assembled like industrial parts, not real food. When trust erodes, bite by bite, it's no longer just about taste. It's about choice and the right to protect yourself from the very brands you once believed in. If you've made it this far, maybe it's time to stop tasting with your tongue and start judging with your head. 5. When growth becomes collapse, the Subway franchise crisis. Subway was once the poster child for explosive growth in fast food. But today, the sandwich empire is facing a storm, unlike any before a collapse so widespread, it threatens the very foundation of its global franchise model. What began as an aggressive gold rush to be everywhere has turned into a cautionary tale. Since 2015, over 7,600 Subway locations in the U.S. have shut down for good, dragging the total store count to under 20,000, the lowest in 2 decades. At the heart of this collapse is a reckless expansion strategy. Subway flooded every gas station, shopping center, and street corner, often placing stores just blocks or even doors apart. The result? Subway stores began competing against each other. One franchisee reported a 40% drop in sales after a second Subway opened inside the same mall. Average store revenue plummeted from $400,000 to just $350,000 in less than 10 years. Some stores now see fewer customers than a modest mom-and-pop diner. Franchisees work double shifts just to keep the lights on while watching their life savings evaporate. It's gotten so bad that reselling a Subway store has become nearly impossible. The corporation controls who can buy back into the system, leaving many owners trapped in a business they can no longer afford and can't escape. Some Subway stores have depreciated below their original startup costs. In desperation, some franchisees are getting creative. One owner ran an entire store completely solo for 6 months, becoming a one-man sandwich assembly line. Another converted half the dining area into a mini convenience store, hoping that selling chips and sodas might make up for dwindling sandwich sales. Across America, the iconic "Eat Fresh" signs are coming down, leaving behind abandoned storefronts and painful lessons about what happens when growth outpaces reality. Subway's meteoric rise, and now its slow-motion collapse, is a reminder that no empire is too big to fall. For years, Subway was the go-to choice for those wanting a quick, healthy, affordable meal. But that image is crumbling under the weight of fake meat scandals, shrinking sandwiches, food safety violations, and a franchise system so stressed it's buckling. What was once a symbol of convenience is now becoming a case study in broken trust and a warning to anyone who thinks scale equals success. And for consumers, especially older adults who care about health, safety, and peace of mind, choosing where you eat isn't just a matter of convenience anymore. It's a decision that affects your long-term well-being. Because sometimes, the cheapest sandwich comes at a price you'll never see on the menu. All information in this exposé was compiled from public reports, industry data, and real consumer testimonies. Readers are encouraged to verify specifics and reconsider Subway as a trusted destination before the next bite.